Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Muslim Marriage Podcast, where we talk about healthy relationships from a Muslim lens. I'm Zara Hassan.
And I'm AJ, and let's get started.
Let's get started. On this week's episode, once again coming from the Muslim Marriage subreddit, a young lady asks, how do I get over infidelity? An interesting topic.
And if you guys have any questions, comment down below. Perhaps we'll get to yours.
Inshallah, yeah, of course. You can always email us, and the email is down below as well. Okay, so a young lady asks, for those who gave their spouse a second chance after cheating, if they were sincerely remorseful, does it ever get better? Do you stop thinking about it? Is it worth it? Currently going through this and decided to give my spouse another chance, but I keep replaying it in my head, and it's been 4 months. That's first of all, I'm very sorry for anyone who's going through this. It's a very painful experience for anyone, both men and women. But what are your thoughts?
There's a reason there's that penalty.
Yeah. So I understand, like, cause it's if we just talk about the process of healing,
Yeah,
and with respect to how it is that people can theoretically eventually get past this. How would they
I don't
do
think
that?
it's something someone can recover from.
Yeah.
Reasonably speaking, I don't think it is something someone can recover from.
Have you ever been
I haven't,
cheated?
no.
Okay, good.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. You still haven't. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Of
Alhamdulillah.
course. I don't think it is something that someone can recover from
Mm-hmm.
because that's like irreparable damage.
Yeah, but from the coaching perspective, I see people do get past this eventually, right? But it depends on what your definition of getting past this is, right?
Bandages.
Mm-hmm. There's a term in psychology called betrayal trauma. And it was coined in 1994 by a psychologist in New York, Dr. Freud. And the definition is pretty close to what it sounds like. It's a very specific type of trauma that is perpetrated by someone who you are close to and who you are reliant upon for support and survival. So somebody in your inner circle, and is based on attachment theory. So somebody who you are attached to. Now, part of the reason why it was given a whole term is because the symptoms, right, or what people tend to experience, there was a pattern to it. And whenever there's a pattern to something in psychology, eventually somebody gives it a term.
Yeah.
And the treatment or the recovery process can become standardized.
Yeah.
Overall, what people who are experiencing betrayal trauma to go through is a lot of what the sister described, right? And she's asking, will you ever get past it? So specifically, she said she keeps replaying it in her mind, right? So there is an element of a little bit of PTSD to it, where you are reliving the experience over and over again, especially with triggers, right? So if a person found out that their spouse was cheating based on a message that they saw on Instagram, Instagram DM. So Instagram might become a trigger. Maybe they saw their spouse outside somewhere. That restaurant or that area where they saw. So all of these things can become triggers that can lead to re-experiencing the trauma.
Yeah.
So there is that element to it. Another aspect, something else that's very common that I've seen clients experience is a lot of anxiety, related to is it going to happen again? Are they going to do it again? Anxiety. Let's talk about anxiety in the first place. Anxiety comes from not being able to control something. Yeah. Right. Whenever you feel like something is beyond your control, that's when you typically experience particular situational anxiety.
Yeah.
So in this case, her spouse having cheated on her in the past, whether or not he's going to do that again is going to be something that is beyond her control.
Yeah.
And addressing that is a big part of the recovery process. PTSD is one of the anxiety disorders itself. So again, it's all under this umbrella of anxiety. I've seen sometimes clients describe literal fear, right, where they have difficulty being able to sleep, difficulty being able to be on their own, especially because I deal with women. My clients tend to be women, and they're who are married to men, their husbands. And especially for women, there is this sense of safety and security that comes from your husband being there.
Yeah.
So when that trust is really damaged in that way, that sense of safety and security tends to go away. It also becomes damaged.
Yeah.
So they often describe finding themselves being afraid in multiple settings that they weren't before. They want to go, they can't go to the store, they need somebody to go with them, etc., etc. All of this comes under the umbrella of anxiety.
Yeah.
Of course, there are other issues that are at play, but that tends to be a lot of what people describe. How do you recover from this?
Tough. That's tough.
Yeah, I think I think
it's very tough. Yeah,
it is. It is a process. For her, it's been 4 months.
Yeah,
I say 4 months is not enough time yet.
Definitely not.
I've seen people recover somewhere in the neighborhood between 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
So I would say give it some more time. And what that recovery looks like is going to be different for each person. The first step is to decide what's going to be happening with your life.
Yeah.
Are you going to reconcile and stay with your spouse? Or is it going to be that the two of you separate and come back? Or is it that there's going to be a divorce? Just that first step. And in deciding that first step, if it's possible, I always recommend that people take a little bit of time to decide what is the right decision for them.
Yeah.
Simply because when...
heat of the moment decisions.
Yeah. Because very few of us will be able to think clearly when experiencing trauma on that level.
Yeah.
So give yourself some sort of buffer where you can have a little bit of time to process, understand what happened, and see what is the best course of action for yourself, especially if there's children involved.
Yeah.
That's the first piece of advice. The second piece of advice, let's talk a little bit about reconciliation. Because that's the path that she's asking about. If you decide on reconciliation, this will be with a partner who comes and is clearly remorseful. This is your partner who's clearly remorseful, has accepted full responsibility. You've given enough time between the two of you so that this is a genuine decision that is coming from a place of I don't want to lose everything, but more a place of I understand what I've done to you, and I'm very sorry about that.
Yeah.
Right. There's a difference. So that the remorse is coming from a place of genuine concern for you and your well-being, because that's what was missing. That's what led to the situation happening in the first place. So you want to the best, because nobody can read anyone's mind.
Yeah.
So to a level that makes sense to you, if this is for somebody who is accepting full accountability, not deflecting, not dismissing, not doing any of those things, fully accepting, saying that, yes, this was on me, etc., and is genuinely remorseful.
Yeah.
And if that condition exists and you decide on reconciliation, now how do you make a marriage work? That's the very expensive question. First step is to accept your feelings. Don't fight your feelings. Accept that it's going to be hard. If you can educate yourself on what those feelings might be, people find that helpful. I would recommend looking up betrayal trauma. There are so many excellent psychologists. There's so many excellent counselors and therapists who have great videos on YouTube, right? So to give you a good idea of what that trauma looks like and give you some of the language to help you understand what it is that you're going through. That's always very helpful. Yeah. So step number 1 is to educate yourself a little bit on what that is, and also accept how it is that you feel. And number 2, especially in these current economic times, this might not be an option for everyone. But number 2 is to find help.
Yeah.
Find help. If that help is coming from a counselor or a coach who is experienced in betrayal trauma, experienced in infidelity, that would be great. That's ideal.
It could be a counselor and a coach.
Yeah, absolutely.
A counseloach.
A counseloach?
Yeah.
It sounds like an insect.
No.
Yeah.
No. Counseloaches are not insects. No. Cockroaches are insects.
Okay, that makes sense. It was bugging me a little bit.
Okay.
But a counselor or a coach, or somebody who is experienced and you can do one-on-one therapy with. Another option is that there are wonderful support groups that are available online for people who are experiencing betrayal trauma, and they are often free.
Yeah.
Often free. And some of them have that format of being like an AA group or an NA group, where like the 12-step program groups.
I know what AA stands for. What does NA stand for?
Narcotics Anonymous, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the 12-step program style,
yeah,
those exist, and there are those who are not 12-step program style. Both are great.
Yeah.
And both are often free. Available. Usually they're run out of the United States and Canada, but you can probably find something local.
Yeah.
So step number 2 is find support.
And don't tell others that your husband or wife cheated on you.
That's interesting. It depends on if you're reconciling.
Yeah, if you're reconciling. Like theoretically, in a different scenario, there would be a court trial.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
But
so if you are reconciling with your spouse and your spouse is a safe person and this is a safe environment for you and your children potentially, and this is the best decision that you're coming to, I would at least speak to somebody more learned in terms of religion.
Yeah.
If religion is important for you, I would speak to your local imam, somebody.
I highly encourage it, actually.
Yes, who can give you some advice to make sure that everything's being done correctly according to our religion, right? I would include that as part of your reconciliation process.
Yeah.
But in terms of personal healing, it was number 1, educate yourself and accept how you feel. Number 2, find support. And number 3, and this one is hard to do and is tricky to do. Number 3 is to understand that some trauma is going to affect different people in different ways. There is an overall pattern to it, hence the term betrayal trauma. But there is going to be, some of it is going to depend on you and your personal history and what your triggers are, etc. So a lot of as triggers come up and as feelings come up, a lot of us, our knee-jerk reaction is going to be blaming your spouse each time. So whenever you have a big feeling or whenever you have a moment of flashback, or whenever you have a suspicion, your instinct is going to be to blame your spouse and to rehash it out. So there's going to be a lot. It's not helpful, right? Because if the original condition for reconciliation is that this is an individual who is genuinely remorseful, part of accepting, like in step 1, part of accepting things is to accept that you can't control this person. Yeah. And to try to control them is impossible. It's not going to be very helpful. We get back to step 3, what step 3 is to try to separate what are your part of the healing process and his part of the healing process, or her part of the healing process, right? To separate what it is that is yours and what it is that is theirs, right? So to accept accountability for your own emotions and to not expect them to manage your emotions. Yeah. Right? That part is difficult to do, and it's difficult to find that line. However, also a part of part 3 is to create a sense of a little healthy boundaries of what you need in order to get back to a place where you can trust this person.
Yeah.
Right. So after you've educated yourself a little bit and you have access to a therapist and a support group, and you have a little bit more information about what other people have gone through, or about other resources that can give you strategies, you'll now be in a better position to outline what your boundaries are. Mm-hmm. And those boundaries might change over time.
Yeah.
So, for example, your boundary might be, I'm going to need you to not put a password on their phone.
Yeah.
Which is a fair boundary.
And it's a very fair boundary.
Yes, I'm going to need for it.
I'm pretty sure the phone was used in the act of the crime.
It usually is, right? But that could be an example of the boundary. Another boundary can be something like, I'm going to have a very hard, this could be an example of a boundary where you can tell your spouse, look, this is very hard for me right now, and I'm still in that process of healing. And it's going to be difficult for me for at least 6 months.
Yeah.
So I'm going to need you to give me a little bit of space to be sometimes unreasonable for 6 months.
Yeah.
I'm going to try really hard not to bring up what happened.
Yeah.
But if I do bring up what happened, to just to give me a little bit of grace and space.
Yeah, don't be defensive.
Yes, exactly. So just to have a little bit of that could be an example of a boundary where your spouse can say something like, okay, I completely understand. But if it gets into a habit where you're every single day or every time something goes wrong, you bring it up again, right?
This is why mom doesn't love you.
Yeah, okay. Let's say like they went to the store and they were 5 minutes late.
Yeah.
And you're like, where were you? Right? It has to be within reason. If it gets to a point where it's all of the time and it's like it's a daily occurrence, or it's happening several times a week, then that can be doing additional damage to your marriage. And it could be asking from him to start to carry some of that burden of what is yours.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because developing our sense of safety is our responsibility, not their responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, for example, if you're if we go back to that, you found the information on the phone, it was on the Instagram DM, and you now have an issue, you're in the situation where each time that you see him on the phone or you see her on the phone, you are taken back to that place, and your immediate instinct is to start asking questions of who are you talking to. That is not helpful. Instead, what you could do something like is just to say, look, I'm going to need a little bit of time to get past this. Would it be okay with you if I went through your phone once a week? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that could be an example.
Would it be okay with you if I can inspect your gadget?
Okay. Like that could be an example of something that the two of you can communicate through. What boundaries the two of you come up with to help you get transition through this process is going to depend on your specific situation. And I highly recommend that you seek either a support group or some sort of professional to bounce off whether or not those boundaries are things that can work. Does that make sense? And of course, everything is good. You're going to need a lot of communication.
Yeah.
It's going to take a lot of communication.
Yeah.
A lot of mutual empathy.
Yeah.
And each of you needs to make space for the other one because it's hard for the both of you. I know it's hard to understand, but the way that it's hard on his end is there's probably an immense amount of guilt. There's an immense amount of shame.
Yeah.
And whenever what they did is alluded to, it brings that up. Right?
Yeah.
So that I understand that it's the two cannot be compared, but they are still human being, and these are hard emotions to deal with, and so we still want to also give space for them to be able to manage that as well. If this is done with a therapist, 1,000 times better, or with with a professional who has experience, 1,000 times better. At least have a support group in place.
Yeah, I find it crazy how in this day and age, people espouse men having multiple partners before they settle on a marriage, because what that does is that just trains the guy You know,
and
just
sometimes
trains the
women
guy
too.
to be infidelic, or whatever the word is.
But
You know,
it's an interesting.
the same thing. I mean, like it's less so with the women because society judges women for those actions.
Yeah.
And society seemingly praises men for those actions.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And in the modern culture, the Western society, marriage is seen as a ball and chain. They have bachelor parties as a last hurrah.
Yeah, this is true. These are concepts that are outside of Islam, right?
Exactly.
But I can tell you that the divorce rates are comparable amongst Muslims and non-Muslims, right? The rates of infidelity, I haven't compared the two of them, but the rates of infidelity are there, is a common reason for divorce, both amongst Muslims and non-Muslims, especially in this age of social media.
It's because the majority of the Muslims live in societies that don't have laws around it.
It happens in predominantly Muslim countries as well.
Even so, in predominant Muslim countries, they still don't have laws around it. You know, they're more adherent to the laws, but they're not actually.
I understand. Like for instance, there are laws against major crimes here that have very severe consequences, but people still do it.
Yeah, that's a very fair point. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, so in general, we don't understand. I don't pretend to understand why people cheat.
Yeah.
When a client comes to me and they are in that position of having been the one who cheated, I don't judge because I don't know what their circumstances were. Judgment is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not for me. But it happens. And because it happens, that's why we do what we do, to try to help people to get past it.
Yeah.
Both members of the family, right?
Yeah,
the ones who cheated. Yeah. The ones who cheated and the ones who were cheated on. So this whole topic is very hard to talk about.
Yeah.
It is. There was a lot of stuttering on my part.
Difficulty indeed.
Yeah, my apologies for all of the stutters.
You don't have to apologize for anything.
I think I do.
No, you don't.
Okay, all right.
You don't have to apologize for anything.
Agree to disagree?
I would ask, actually, that you not apologize from this point forward.
Okay, I will, but I'm Canadian, though.
Yeah, I know, but like... All right, fine. You get one sorry. You get one apology.
All right, I'm sorry. Okay, so if we go... if we get back to the question, I think we answered the sister's question. Just to review, she asked, "Do you stop thinking about it?" So actually, it's good that we check this. Healed depends on your definition of what healed is.
Yeah.
Right. If the way that I would try to approach to define it would be to reach a point of peace.
Yeah.
Reach a point of peace where you understand and you remember that is something that happened in the past.
Yeah.
But you also understand that whether or not it happens in the future is beyond your control.
Yeah.
And that if it does happen in the future, you will be okay.
I agree with you here, where I think there will come a time where you'll stop thinking about it, but I think you'll remember it forever.
Yeah, like it won't be at the forefront of your mind. So we gave an example on a previous episode where it's like when you purchase a house, right? And God forbid there was a robbery.
Yeah.
Right? You weren't there, but there was a robbery. And that robbery literally robs you of your sense of safety.
Yeah.
And after a certain amount of time, you get to a place where you have all the security in place to prevent it from happening again. But you accept the fact that there's nothing I can do about it there's nothing further that I can do from preventing it from happening again, because I can't control anyone other myself. I've done all I can from my part to put up those literal boundaries.
Yeah.
And you get to a point of peace of not being on your mind as much.
Yeah.
Right? So I won't say that there is a point where you just never think about it again. But there will be a point where you reach a sense of peace and a lot of the anxiety dissipates.
I think it's kind of like that Dane Cook joke.
Oh, which one?
I think it's a very accurate representation where somebody breaks into someone's house, a family's house while they're away.
Okay, the B&E.
And opens all the wardrobes and drawers and makes it look like the house was ransacked.
Yes.
But they don't actually take anything.
Yes.
Right? And when they get back, they're like, well, what's happening here? Is it someone who broke into our house? And they're trying to find out what was stolen, but they can't figure it out because nothing actually was stolen.
Yeah.
And so every now and then, they'll just have a mental break. They're like, what did he take, Karen?
Yeah.
What did he take?
Yeah.
I think it's like that kind of feeling where it shows up every now and then.
Yeah.
And it causes panic.
Yeah.
But it's like
you have
just
tools.
Always just in the background.
Yeah, you have tools. You have tools on your end, and you have tools on your relationship end. Right?
Yeah.
After you've done a lot of the work, a lot of the research, you've spoken to your therapist, spoken to your support group, and you now have tools in place so that if, God forbid, you start to have genuine, real suspicions it's happening again, you now have an idea of what boundaries, of how to talk about it with your spouse, respecting both of your boundaries.
Yeah.
And for your own self of how to deal with it emotionally.
Yeah.
Right. You'll have strategies in place. And that's why the therapy is so necessary. Yeah. So the first time you go through a robbery, you don't know what to do. But the second time you go through a robbery, God forbid anybody ever goes through one, you now know what to do. Right?
There actually was this one guy, real life scenario.
Yeah.
That his house got robbed, like burgled. But he didn't go to the police. He didn't tell anyone about it because he didn't want to feel embarrassed or something.
Subhanallah.
And so the robbers just kept robbing his house only.
Oh, was this a true story?
It's a true story.
Is he okay?
The guy's house just kept getting robbed because he didn't want to take it to the police ever.
Was he all right?
Yeah, he's fine.
So that's a good analogy.
Yeah.
Where when you go through the steps and you seek the help, right? It just makes
the whole stop the bleed.
It makes the process a lot easier.
Yeah.
It gives you back control of what can be controlled.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So again, this is a very difficult topic to talk about. If anyone's going through this or has gone through this, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for you and make it easy for your family. And hopefully, let me just check one more time the sister's questions. Is it worth it? Short answer is yes. It's worth it because there is recovery is possible. It does happen. People do get to a point of having peace back into their marriage. The dynamic might be not the exact same as it was before, especially, we carry our own core wounds that are going to be phenomenally triggered by this trauma and requiring a lot of healing that may not get back to baseline. But you can still get to a point where there is trust between you and your spouse.
Yeah.
You can still get to a point where that familiarity, that sense of safety can come back into your marriage. It takes time, but it can happen. And the best things that you can do for yourself are the things that we listed above.
Yeah.
So I think that's everything. Is there anything we're missing?
A very happy episode, yeah, but that's everything, I think.
Okay, inshallah.
Inshallah.
So if you are married and you are in a position where you are looking to find ways to build closeness into your marriage, I have created just a short list. I think it's 3 pages in total of healthy marriage habits that you can do daily, weekly, and monthly in a short PDF that's available for your download in the description below. And if you have enjoyed or if you have found useful anything we've said in this podcast episode or any other episode, and you haven't subscribed to our channel on YouTube, please do subscribe. It really helps out our channel. And finally, if you we want to thank you so much for choosing to spend this time with us. We really appreciate it. Inshallah, a happier topic next time.
Inshallah.
We wish you a wonderful weekend. Jazakallah khair and assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.